welcome to the Retirement Wealth Podcast. We're so glad you're joining us today.
Absolutely. It's great to have you here.
Planning for retirement can feel a bit overwhelming, especially when you're doing it as a couple.
Yeah, that's right. It's not just about the numbers. It's about the dreams, the goals, and sometimes the compromises too.
Exactly. So in this episode, we're diving into retirement planning specifically for couples.
We'll cover some key points, like how to align your retirement goals, the importance of communication, and some common pitfalls to avoid.
And we'll also share some strategies that can help couples make the most of their retirement years together.
It's all about creating a plan that works for both partners, right?
Yes! So whether you're just starting to think about retirement or you're already in the thick of it, we've got some valuable insights coming your way.
And remember, it's never too late to start planning, or to adjust your plans if needed.
Definitely. So let's jump right in and explore how couples can navigate the retirement planning journey together.
Sounds good, Emily. Let's get started. So, Emily, when we think about retirement planning for couples, it's crucial to understand why it really matters right now. I mean, life has changed so much, right?
Absolutely, and I feel like a lot of couples might not grasp just how urgent some of these issues are. For instance, have you noticed how the timeline for retirement seems to be shifting?
Yes, definitely. Many people are realizing they may need to work longer than they anticipated, especially with things like inflation eating away at savings. It's a real concern.
Right, and I've heard from several listeners who are worried about how market volatility can impact their retirement funds. They're really feeling the pressure.
Exactly. Just the other day, I was chatting with a couple, let's call them John and Sarah. They had planned to retire in 5 years, but with the ups and downs of the market lately, they're reconsidering. They want to make sure their investments can withstand that kind of volatility.
That's so true. And inflation is another huge factor. I mean, groceries and healthcare costs are skyrocketing. It's not just about having a nest egg anymore. It's about making sure that nest egg can actually sustain them through their retirement years.
Right. And then there's the emotional side of that financial security. I mean, think about it. When you're worried about money, it can really put a strain on a relationship, can't it?
Definitely. I've seen couples argue over finances, and it just adds unnecessary stress. It's so important to tackle these issues together rather than letting them fester.
Well, speaking of stress, there's also the changes to Social Security we've been hearing about. A lot of folks are unsure of how those changes could affect their benefits.
Yes. I talked to a couple, let's say they're Brian and Lisa, and they were under the impression that they could rely heavily on Social Security. But with the proposed adjustments, they're realizing it might not be as reliable as they thought.
Exactly. It's that uncertainty that really drives home the need for a solid plan. And when you look at healthcare costs, they can be a massive drain on retirement savings.
Oh, for sure. I read a study recently that said a couple could spend over $300,000 on healthcare in retirement. That's a staggering amount.
It really is, and it's often overlooked. A lot of people assume Medicare will cover everything, but there are so many gaps,
Yes, and planning for those gaps can make a world of difference. I mean, if John and Sarah don't account for those potential costs, their retirement could look very different than they expected.
And let's not forget about legacy planning. A lot of couples want to leave something behind for their children or grandchildren, but they need to factor that into their overall financial plan now, rather than waiting until it's too late.
Exactly. So many people think legacy planning is just for the ultra-wealthy, but it's for everyone. Even modest gifts can have a big impact on future generations.
It's all connected, isn't it? Current economic trends are shifting, and couples need to take a holistic view of their finances. One misstep can really change the trajectory of their retirement.
That's such a good point. So, what do you think are some of the most effective strategies couples can employ right now to address all these concerns?
Well, first off, I'd say it's important for couples to sit down together and have those tough conversations about their finances, their goals, and even their fears.
Yes, communication is key. A lot of couples avoid talking about money because it feels uncomfortable, but it's so important to get on the same page.
Exactly. And then once they've had those discussions, they can start looking at their financial plan together. I often recommend working with a financial advisor who understands their unique situation as a couple.
Right, and that advisor can help them navigate the complexities of tax efficiency, especially with changes in tax laws. It can really save them a lot in the long run.
And let's not forget about diversifying their investment portfolio. With market volatility, having a mix of investments can help cushion against those unexpected downturns.
Absolutely. And it's also about having a solid withdrawal strategy, making sure they're not pulling too much too soon, which can jeopardize their savings.
Yes, and as they approach retirement, it might be wise to reassess their risk tolerance. It's not just about growth anymore. It's about protecting what they have.
And of course, planning for healthcare expenses early on can really alleviate some of that stress later. It's all about being proactive.
Right. And to wrap it up, couples should also consider their legacy goals. Making those plans now can ensure they leave behind the kind of legacy they want, without sacrificing their own retirement security.
Well, it sounds like there's a lot to think about, but with the right strategies, couples can really set themselves up for a successful retirement.
So, Emily, when couples are planning for retirement, one of the core strategies we often discuss is asset allocation. I mean, it's crucial, right? The way you divide your investments between stocks and bonds can really impact your long-term success.
Absolutely, David. Many experts suggest a classic rule of thumb, like the 70-30th portfolio, which means 70% in stocks and 30% in bonds for those who are still in their earning years. But as you age, you might want to shift that balance.
Exactly. The idea is to reduce risk as you approach retirement. So maybe by the time you hit your 60s, you could be looking at something more like a 50-50 split, or even 40% in stocks and 60% in bonds, depending on your risk tolerance.
Right, and it's important to remember that everyone's situation is different. Some couples may feel comfortable with more risk, especially if they have a longer time horizon or other income sources.
That's a good point. And speaking of income sources, let's touch on tax-advantaged accounts like 401k and IRAs. These can be game changers for retirement savings.
Yes, maxing out contributions to those accounts can really boost your savings. For instance, in 2023, you can contribute up to $22,500 to a 401k, and if you're over 50, there's a catch-up contribution option that lets you add an extra $7,500.
And don't forget about IRAs. The limit is $6,500 for 2023, with a $1,000 catch-up for those 50 and older. It's like giving yourself a little extra cushion.
Exactly. And when it comes to Roth IRAs, the tax-free growth is such a huge advantage. I mean, if you can contribute to a Roth, you'll benefit from tax-free withdrawals in retirement.
Yes, but remember, there are income limits for contributing to a Roth, so you'll want to check that out. If you're above those limits, traditional IRAs might be a better option.
And speaking of taxes, let's discuss Social Security. Many couples are unsure about the best strategy for claiming benefits. It can be a bit complicated.
It really can. One strategy is to optimize your benefits by delaying claims. If you wait until age 70, you can receive a significantly higher monthly benefit. It's like an 8% increase for each year you delay past your full retirement age.
That can really add up, especially for couples where one spouse might have a higher earning history. If the higher earner can delay their benefits, it can provide a larger survivor benefit for the other spouse later on.
Exactly. That's a crucial aspect of planning. And when we're talking about withdrawal strategies, the 4% rule is often mentioned.
Right. The idea is that if you withdraw 4% of your retirement savings each year, you can likely sustain your portfolio for 30 years. But it's not a one-size-fits-all rule.
No, it's not. Market conditions, your lifestyle, and other income sources can all play a role. Some couples might want to consider a bucket strategy instead, where you segment your investments based on when you'll need the money.
I love that approach. It gives a more tailored way to manage withdrawals. You could have one bucket for short-term needs, which is more conservative, and then another bucket for long-term growth, more aggressive.
Right, and that can help mitigate the risk of having to sell investments at a loss during market downturns. You don't want to be forced to withdraw from your growth bucket when the market is down.
Exactly. And let's not forget about real estate. For many couples, their home is a significant part of their net worth.
Yes, and it can be a source of income in retirement too. Some couples decide to downsize or move to a less expensive area to free up cash for other investments or expenses.
Or even consider renting out a portion of their home. That can provide ongoing income while still allowing them to live in the space they love.
That's true. And then there are annuities, which can provide a steady income stream. They can be a useful tool for some couples, especially if they're concerned about longevity risk.
Yeah, but it's important to understand the fees and terms associated with annuities. They can be complex, and it's essential to find one that aligns with your retirement goals.
Definitely. And while we're on the topic of fees, let's touch on diversification. It's such an essential part of any investment strategy.
Right? You want to avoid putting all your eggs in one basket. Diversifying across different asset classes can help reduce risk.
Exactly. A well-diversified portfolio might include U.S. stocks, international stocks, bonds, real estate, and even some alternative investments like commodities.
And it's not just about diversifying by asset class, but also within those classes. For example, not just stocks, but U.S. large cap versus small cap, or value versus growth.
Yes, and regularly reviewing your portfolio to ensure that your asset allocation aligns with your goals and risk tolerance is key. Market movements can change your allocation over time, and you don't want to drift too far from your strategy.
Absolutely, David. And as we wrap up this segment, it's natural to feel overwhelmed by all these strategies and rules of thumb. But remember that planning is a process. It's about finding what works for you as a couple.
Right, and with the right strategies in place, couples can really build a solid foundation for a comfortable retirement.
And speaking of building that foundation, let's transition into discussing some common pitfalls couples face when planning for retirement.
So, Emily, let's dive into some of those common pitfalls couples face when planning for retirement. One of the biggest issues I see is the sequence of returns risk. A lot of people just don't grasp how important that is.
Right. Yeah. I've heard about that. It sounds complicated, but it really boils down to how your investments perform in the early years of retirement, doesn't it?
Exactly. So for instance, if you retire and your portfolio takes a hit right away, that can really mess up your long-term plans. I remember working with a couple, let's call them Tom and Lisa. They had a solid plan, but when the market dipped shortly after they retired, they started withdrawing from their investments, which led to a downward spiral.
Oh no, that sounds stressful. So how did that impact them?
Well, they ended up having to cut back on their spending, which was tough because they had planned for travel and retirement activities they were really looking forward to. They didn't realize that taking withdrawals during a market downturn could deplete their savings much faster than they anticipated.
That's a great example of the real-life implications of sequence of returns risk. What's a good strategy to avoid that?
A great way to mitigate that risk is to have a diversified income strategy. Think about having a mix of investments that can provide income in different market conditions, and maybe even having a cash reserve to cover your expenses for the first few years of retirement.
That makes sense. It's like having a safety net while your investments recover, right?
Exactly. Now, another common mistake I see is couples ignoring the tax implications of their withdrawals. A lot of people just focus on the numbers they need, but they forget about taxes.
Yeah, taxes can be such a hidden factor. Can you give an example of what that looks like?
Sure. I had a client, let's call him Joe. He was taking withdrawals from his traditional IRA without considering the tax impact. He thought he was being smart by withdrawing a bit more in the early years, but he didn't realize that it pushed him into a higher tax bracket, which meant he lost a significant chunk of his withdrawals to taxes.
Ouch! That's gotta hurt. So what could he have done differently?
If Joe had worked with a tax advisor or financial planner to strategize his withdrawals, he could have spread them out over several years, keeping his income in a lower tax bracket. It's all about planning ahead and understanding the tax implications.
That's key. And what about healthcare costs? I've heard that can be a real shocker for many retirees.
Absolutely. Healthcare costs are often underestimated. I worked with a couple, Angela and Mark, who thought they had plenty saved up, but they didn't account for the rising costs of healthcare, especially as they aged. They were shocked when they started getting those medical bills.
It's so easy to overlook that, isn't it? What's a good way to prepare for those costs?
A solid strategy is to include healthcare costs in your retirement budget And consider long-term care insurance if it's appropriate for your situation. Having some savings earmarked specifically for healthcare can also help. It just provides peace of mind.
That's a smart approach. Now, I want to touch on asset allocation. How do you see couples getting that wrong?
Well, many couples tend to become too conservative as they near retirement. They think, I can't afford to lose any money now, so they move everything into safe investments. But that can backfire, especially with inflation outpacing those conservative investments.
Right, because if you're not growing your money, you're losing purchasing power over time.
Exactly. I had a couple, Carol and Mike, who were in their 60s and moved their entire portfolio to bonds, thinking they were being safe. But they didn't realize that with low interest rates, their returns were barely keeping up with inflation, which ultimately affected their long-term financial stability.
So what's the recommendation here?
A balanced approach is best. It's important to have a diversified portfolio that reflects your risk tolerance and time horizon. You want to grow your assets while still having a cushion for those market fluctuations.
Got it. And what about Social Security, David? I know that's a big decision for couples.
Yes, claiming Social Security too early is another common mistake. I had a client, let's call her Susan, who claimed at 62 because she wanted the money right away, but she didn't realize the long-term impact it would have on her benefits.
So what happens if you claim too early?
Well, claiming early means you could end up with a reduced benefit for the rest of your life, and if you're married, that can also affect your spouse's benefits. It's critical to weigh the options and consider factors like health, life expectancy, and income needs.
Those decisions can be so overwhelming. What's the best way for couples to navigate that?
I always recommend sitting down together and discussing your goals and needs. Also, it can help to consult with a financial planner who can walk you through the Social Security options and run the numbers based on your specific situation.
That's a great tip. So, David, how can couples spot these red flags early in their retirement planning?
Well, keeping open communication is key. If one partner is more engaged in the finances, they should share information regularly with the other. And if one partner is hesitant to talk about money or avoids it altogether, that could be a red flag.
Yeah, and also, if they find themselves making decisions based on fear or market volatility, that's a warning sign too, right?
Absolutely. It's essential to have a long-term perspective and a plan that accommodates life's uncertainties. So couples should regularly review their financial situation and make adjustments as needed.
Sounds like proactive planning is the way to go. What should they do next if they realize they've made some of these mistakes?
First, don't panic. It's never too late to make adjustments. They can start by reassessing their financial plans and seeking professional advice. A financial advisor can help them realign their goals and strategies for a more secure retirement.
Such valuable insights, David. It's all about having a plan that's flexible, informed, and aligned with their needs.
Exactly, Emily. And remember, it's a journey. Staying educated and adaptable can really make a difference in achieving a fulfilling retirement. All right, so let's dive into some immediate steps that couples can take right now to enhance their retirement planning.
Yeah, I think it's important to stress that it's never too late to make improvements, right?
Absolutely, Emily. One of the first things I'd recommend is to start reviewing your joint portfolio quarterly. Just taking that time to understand how your investments are performing can make a big difference.
That makes sense. And it doesn't have to be overwhelming, right? Just set aside an hour or so every few months.
Exactly. And while you're at it, running retirement projections is key. There are some great tools out there, like the calculators from Vanguard or Fidelity. They're user-friendly and can help you visualize where you stand.
Oh, I love those. And I think some people might not realize how much they can customize those projections based on their specific goals.
Right. And don't forget about Schwab's retirement calculator. It's also a solid option for getting a clearer picture of your savings and income needs.
And for those who might want to dive deeper into their Social Security benefits, SSA.gov is a fantastic resource. You can create an account and get personalized benefit estimates based on your work history.
Yes, that's crucial. Your Social Security benefits can play a significant role in your overall retirement strategy, so it's worth understanding how to maximize that.
Speaking of maximizing, what about tax implications? I know that can be a bit of a minefield for retirees.
Definitely. Using tax software can help you navigate that. Programs like TurboTax or H&R Block have features specifically for retirees that can make tax season less stressful.
And I suppose that's where consulting a financial planner could come in handy too, especially if you're feeling stuck.
Exactly. A good financial advisor can help you tailor your strategies to your specific situation, whether that's tax strategies, investment choices, or withdrawal strategies.
It's like building a supportive team around your retirement goals. I love that idea.
Yes, and for those who enjoy reading or listening, there are some great books and podcasts out there that focus on retirement planning.
Any recommendations?
The Boglehead's Guide to Retirement Planning is a classic. It's straightforward and packed with practical advice.
Oh, I've heard good things about that one. What about podcasts?
The Retirement Answer Man by Roger Whitney is fantastic. He tackles a lot of the questions retirees have while keeping it engaging.
That sounds like a fun listen. And beyond resources, what about habits that couples can start now?
Great point. Small, consistent habits can have a big impact. For instance, consider setting a monthly date to discuss your finances together.
I love that. Making it a regular part of your relationship can help keep both partners engaged and informed.
Exactly. And don't underestimate the power of just talking about your goals and dreams. It makes the whole process feel more collaborative.
And it can really strengthen your bond as a couple during this transitional phase.
Yes, and another habit could be to periodically assess your risk tolerance together. As you get closer to retirement, your needs might change.
For sure. It's all about finding that balance between growth and preservation, right?
Absolutely. And let's not forget about reviewing your estate plan. It's something that can easily slip through the cracks, but it's so important to have those discussions.
So true. Making sure both partners know what's in place can really ease any future stress.
Exactly. And if there are any major life changes like health issues or moving, that's a good time to revisit those plans.
Right? It's all about being proactive rather than reactive.
And remember, it's never too late to improve your plan. Small steps taken today can lead to significant changes down the road.
I love that encouraging perspective. So with these tools in your pocket, you're ready to strengthen your retirement plan.
Wow, Emily, what a great discussion we've had about retirement planning for couples.
Absolutely, David. I think we really covered some important points that can help so many people.
Yeah, like one key takeaway is the importance of open communication. Couples really need to talk about their financial goals, to make sure they're on the same page.
Right. And then there's the whole idea of joint decision making. It's not just about one person taking the lead. Both partners should be involved in those big financial decisions.
Exactly. And let's not forget about the significance of understanding each other's risk tolerance. If one partner is more conservative and the other is more aggressive, that can create tension if it's not addressed.
Definitely. And it's all about finding that balance, which brings us to the need for a comprehensive retirement plan that considers both partners' needs.
Yeah, and making sure you're regularly reviewing that plan together. Life changes, and so do financial situations.
So true. Building and protecting retirement wealth is a journey, and it takes teamwork, right?
Absolutely. Remember, folks, it's never too late to start planning or to adjust your plans as life unfolds.
And if you found value in today's episode, we'd love for you to like, subscribe, and share. Maybe drop a comment about your biggest takeaway or ask us a question.
Yeah, sharing this with someone who's planning for retirement or already in it could really make a difference for them.
And next time, we're diving into something super interesting. How annuities work for retirement income.
That's right. We'll break it down and help you understand how they can fit into your retirement strategy.
Can't wait. Thanks for joining us today, and we'll catch you next time.
Take care, everyone.